All right, welcome into the half, everybody. My name is Ray. You can find me over at our success group. This very nice gentleman, wonderful gentleman sitting next to me, will just pile on all the praises. I know he loves that. It always
I'll
makes me
just
feel super
squirm more and
comfortable.
more,
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, his name is Mr. Erich Campbell, and you can find him at erichcampbell.com. Eric, happy St. Patrick's Day, sir.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too. I know that you have already told us that you're wearing green. I am not wearing green, but I'll tell you why. I'm in front of a massive green screen, and wearing green is not possible.
I say it looks green to me, man.
It's green enough. Everything around me is green. The main color for my show, kind of the accent color, is a greenish color. So it's like, hey, that's how it's going to be. Here's what I'll do. I'll decorate the set. There we go.
Now we got it.
now there's my green. It's right up there. There you go. So there's a shamrock there for you guys for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into this. I know I was running just a hair late, so it'll seem like bonus time, but it'll still be the 30 minutes, so it's okay. So Eric, yes. We just got off of the Two Regular Guys show. We had Vincent Driscoll from ASI's The Social Angle with us, and talking about social media. I know you've been on his podcast.
Yes, I have. The Social Angle is a great podcast, and Vin, I've always called him Vin, but it's the thing, Vinny, Vince, Vincent. He's been called everything. His podcast says he's Vinny. His other stuff says Vin. I see you found the headline feature.
I did. I
see, we're playing with
new toys while you're talking.
But that's the thing. He always talks about social media. He has for many years. He's been kind of their social media guy, and they've done some really interesting stuff over at ASI with honestly, as funny as it is, we talked about kind of being on business content, but they do kind of some crazy random stuff too. And I think they were early in the game to doing what I think some people think of as influencer content that wasn't 100% related, to what was being shared on the channel. It's kind of cool.
Sure. Well, he talked about kind of an earlier origin story for them, where the first video that he did was him and four other guys drinking beer on company time.
Well, and if you haven't seen them do stuff like try weird Oreo flavors, or there's been a ton of stuff on the ASI channel where they've done that kind of stuff. But it's, it all kind of goes to this point of, the presenters very well, or you feel like you know them and you have this kind of social feeling towards them. And I think that kind of plays out in all of their content, and it plays out in how people trust them, which for a company like ASI, that a lot of what they do is establish relationships and share industry information. Trust is massive. So he's really using social media, as I always say, with the operative word in that being social, which is what it always should be.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty great.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's check in with a couple of people here real quick, and I'll get some more out of you on that. But we got Todd with his usual
yo. What's up, Todd?
I don't do it justice how Todd does it, but and then Ramona checking in, and Brent, hello.
Hey, Brent.
Yep. There you go. That's a good point. Todd says, sounds like the fun of the first few Q&A with TNA shows, where we had quite a few. This was early in the pandemic, and I think we were all trying to figure out, is alcohol going to solve the problems?
Yeah, we had some interesting cocktail hours that I would consider social, those Zoom calls that we did, and they were interesting to say the least.
Yeah. We stopped recording them for a reason.
Yep, I agree with that.
It says,
hey, Jesse,
hello.
good to have you in.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, back real quick, because again, want to get, I always felt like a good use of the half too is to get your perspective as you're sitting behind be in the producer chair. We've got you in the talent chair now. And so I want to get your perspective. What were some of the, Vinny, Vincent, whatever. One of
the things that Vincent said.
What were some of the ones that stood out to you?
Well, the funny thing is, a lot of things we say are fairly evergreen about social media. Certainly, what is evergreen, what is always the case, is that you have to understand your audience and where they're at.
Yeah.
This has been the case from the very beginning. The thing is, back in the day, we used to then end that sentence with, but Facebook is always a great place to start. And Vinny really was not on it. He's like, nah, Facebook isn't. The organic reach is not as good as it used to be. And a lot of people aren't there. What I would say was kind of telling about that, and something that I know from doing quite a lot of work on Facebook, is that if there are dedicated interest groups on the platform that are pertinent to you, those are still very hot.
Yeah.
So Facebook, dedicated interest groups, any sort of niche marketing, still totally possible organically on Facebook. Organic reach in general, not so much. Organic reach in general is a lot harder to do. And frankly, even a paid ad reach isn't as good as it used to be by far, even though they have great targeting tools. The paid ad reach is not fantastic on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
But still, you have to know that if your clients are not somewhere else, well, if they're on Facebook, you're going to have to address them there, because if you go to TikTok and you happen to have let's say your demographic is 65 and older and you spend all your money on TikTok, yes, there are people of that age on TikTok for sure, but myself included as a middle-aged dude. At the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where your largest paying customer group is. And if they're not there, then it's probably not the best sense for you. What I have to like about what Vinny was doing is that though he gave some non-answer answers, something that I'm also famous for doing, those non-answer answers were there for a reason. Somebody's like, David asked, "Hey, how much can I give away for information?" And Vincent immediately, Vinny was like, "Hey, what interest group are you in? What is it you're marketing for? What is your what is your target?" Because you really don't know this stuff, and you don't know where to be until you know your target. If you can't define who it is who's supposed to be listening, you won't know how to craft that message, and you won't know where to say it. And I think that's a worthwhile thing that we've been saying forever, but I still think people don't get. It's amazing to think that this far along, where social media is not new, there's not anything about it that is unknown to us. I think there's still a kind of weird field of dreams attitude where if you just start screaming into the void, eventually somebody will show up to pay you for it. And that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You have to go where people want to hear you. I mean, shoot, you wouldn't walk out to the street corner or somewhere, and just start yelling about something that you do when you're nowhere near it. If we go to a temperance rally and then start screaming about our newest cocktails, we're not going to get a lot of traction. You got to be in the right place for the right thing you're trying to sell. And I think that's, it sounds goofy when I say it like that, but I don't think we think that same thing when we're like, oh no, everybody's on TikTok, I got to be on TikTok, or the other way around. Facebook is a sure deal, we got to be on Facebook. But if your stuff is aimed toward 20 to 25-year-olds, no, you don't. Yeah. No, you don't need to be on Facebook.
Yeah, and even inside each platform too, right? There's something to be said about who you're attracting, right? Just because you're on Facebook doesn't mean you have to attract all 3 billion users or whatever it is, right? It's like
you won't.
The groups and talking to and just continuing to but I think he also really kind of was pretty clear about the fact that it's not necessarily what you're putting out there. Again, good content's key, but it's the building of relationships, right? Which is
regularity. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. I know I'm certainly somebody who says I don't always do it the way I want to, but I think about our live shows, and that's where we had consistency. Consistency is a thing. People expect you to be there, and if you are there on a consistent basis, putting out your message, there is a better chance of it being seen. It is also interesting that whenever we tried to go for like a pat rule, we're like, okay, how many times do you post a day? And he's like, well, if you're on Twitter, it's this. If you're on each one of these channels is different as the way they operate. And I think that it's worthwhile to understand that, I mean, you have to know that the channels are different. You have to know that the markets are different. And the other thing is everybody's still, whenever we talk about social media, there still is this broadcast attitude. How many times do I post content? You're not always having to create content. Part of social media can just be going into these groups and engaging with people and being there.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the earlier pioneers in this, and whether you like him, hate him, or whatever you think about his personality or what he does now, think about Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
I don't love current Gary V all the time. I don't love everything he does. There was a particular period where he had, I believe the book was called The Thank You Economy. And the entire concept was you go into these groups and just help. You answer questions, you help, and don't sell, but you just, yes, you are making clear who you are. You definitely can provide links to what you do,
Yeah.
But you're not there to sell. You go in there and you engage socially. I know, go figure. You engage socially with these folks. You answer questions related to your area of expertise, and you just be there. And yes, does it mean more time investment? Perhaps, maybe, but it also is where you can jump into one of these Facebook groups or into an interest category, or like search a hashtag on LinkedIn or something else like that. Or believe it or not, there are interest groups in LinkedIn. I still post to them and get a lot of traction out of them, but they're harder to find because they used to be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
They're kind of coming back. The interface has changed for that. So LinkedIn is adding groups again to it, but show up to these groups and just answer some questions. When people are talking about something, support someone who's doing something similar, or somebody's showing something off. You go, oh, that's so cool. You should have a shirt for that. That's fine. You don't go in there necessarily sell, but if somebody says, hey, I don't understand how to, get t-shirts ordered. I don't understand what's the difference between this and this, or they're asking questions about what kind of merch there is.
Yeah.
Worthwhile to jump in and say, hey, these are the kind of things that you might want to do. And you don't necessarily have to say anything else because they can find you and they know who you are, and they're going to click on you if you have good information. They're going to find out more about you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Ramona says I do that. I engage socially to help. If they are for more of me, I will take that next step, but I am not there to sell. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't have to. You don't have to be in there. And honestly, we all know this as embroiderers, especially. You guys know how annoying some digitizers are. Someone asks a digitizing question, whether it's about direct stuff or something wrong with the design, and there's infinite number of digitizers from random groups who are just like, I can handle your work. PM, please. PM in your inbox. PM. I've got. There's a ton of them, and they become noise because nobody wants to, and plus nobody's going to straight to a direct message with no information. Whereas if someone comes up and just says, oh, this is how I would do that. And let me tell you, every time I teach somebody something about digitizing, almost every time someone says, can you just do it for me?
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I have to, because it's not what I'm currently doing, turn down digitizing work. And honestly, I don't turn it down. A lot of you folks who are my friends who are digitizers probably may or may not know that a bunch of your referrals are coming from me. But suffice it to say, I turn down digitizing work constantly. If I wanted to do digitizing work, I would have some to do.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there sharing as a subject matter expert, you're teaching, you're telling that story, and especially if you help people in a general context, not just within the industry. It's the other thing Vinny talked about, I think we forget. We get onto these industry groups and we talk amongst ourselves. We can't sell embroidery to embroiderers most of the time. Now, digitizers are a little different because we are inside the industry. But if you make shirts, you shouldn't probably be selling shirts inside of a decorated apparel group unless you are a contract decorator.
Yeah.
Unless you are offering spillover production or contract style production. Showing up with your shirt is not necessarily the place to make money. You need to show up into a general interest group that happens to also need shirts. And I think we forget that sometimes because we're hanging out in our group of people who understand how we live, and we love that. And that's great.
Yeah.
Maybe your secondary thing or your hobby should be the place you start for that. It's a lot harder to sell ice to penguins as we are all surrounded by ice at all times.
Hard to make. All right. So I want to go a little off track here, because you brought up something I've been thinking about, right? You talk about the PMs, the DMs, whatever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Want to be called this. Like, here's what made me think about this, though. Like, I get that all the time too. I followed somebody new on Instagram just the other day, and immediately you get a DM from them with, here's my service and blah, blah, blah. And I immediately go block and
for sure,
unfollow. Right. But what made me think was, this happens so much, it's got to work at some level, right?
I'm sure. Well, and that's something I tell people about online marketing, because everybody's like, wow, why do they keep doing it? I'm like, because if you send out millions of spam emails, 0.03% return is still a lot of money. If you send out millions of emails to a general group, for them, that can still be a lot of money, especially if you're talking about, money that we throw away is worthwhile to people in other markets. Yeah. You eventually get to a volume that works. That doesn't really work for US decorators.
Yeah.
You're not going to send out billions of emails and make little scrapes of money here and there. With digital products, it's a lot easier. And honestly, when a lot of your products may or may not be quality, you don't have to worry very much. They're really easy to put out.
Mm-hmm.
If you have we were joking around about AI, if you have a Chat GPT assisted book that you've written that has, reposted content in it, and all you have to do is get some, a certain number of people to pay 50 cents for it. Sending an email out to millions of people might actually get you somewhere, or constantly spamming it might get you to some money that was worthwhile for you. But that's not going to happen with what we do.
And that's why most of those emails that you get from those folks are Gmails, because they just make a new one, and then that one's not on the spam filters, and they just
and the spam filters aren't going to completely oust Gmail as a server. They're not going to do that. So of course. Whereas what I'm going to tell you honestly, because I do e-commerce work too, when sometimes you'll send stuff out, and in a general group of people who you don't really know if they're warmed up or not, a 3% return is not bad necessarily. I mean, you want a lot more conversion than that if you can get it, but a 3% conversion is great off of a lot of regular general email when you're out, when you're cold to a group of people. So you have to think about that for a minute. There are people who are out there going, I sent out an email, and they sent it to 100 people, and they're very angry that they got 3 or 4 people to buy. And I'm like, on a cold email like that, you don't know the group that you're on, that might be okay. So it's kind of harsh, it's kind of hard. What's hilarious. And now we just got a Twitch person who's trying to hit us up to give us fake Twitch viewers. So it's happening live. What did I tell you guys?
It's called the law of attraction, Eric.
We talked about spammers and they're here. But it's true. But sometimes if you send out a big general email to people, now, if you've got a dedicated group of people though, you might have 40% open rates. You might have 10% conversion if they're warmed up people who really go for it. But those are big numbers. If you're just cold mailing a ton of people, getting some, single digit percentages is normal. That's not abnormal for a broadcast like that. And then if you think about social media and the level of engagement that's happening on each post, if you're expecting that every single post is going to make a percentage of sales per views, that's not always the case. I mean, it's about having that consistent message and continuing to be present. If you're present all the time when the people are ready to buy, when they're warm, they hit. If you're just constantly expecting a mass wave every time you post, you're going to be sad. It's just not it's not a money printer. And I'm kind of surprised people still kind of have that feeling that if they push the button, that for sure it's going to be directly be correlated to a sale. Whereas a lot of social media is trust and presence and top of mind awareness. And yes, you will see ROI on stuff, but you're going to realize that there's a baseline of work you're always going to be doing, and then you're going to hit, but you have to be doing that, being present and doing the baseline and level of work, I think, to be in someone's mind at all when the time comes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Like I said, I knew I was going to take us off track, which
that's totally all good.
And that's what this is all about. All right. Well, Eric, well, come on. I thought to hit the button and I didn't hit the button. Weekly wins. So a couple things for you guys that are tuned in and listen to us here. What are some of the wins that you've had over the last week? What things have what stand out? It can be anything, right? So first and foremost, I want to make sure that everybody is very clear on this is a no judgment zone. So you can, if you feel like it's too small, put it anyways, right? If you feel like you're bragging, put it anyways, right? This is a no judgment zone. So Ramona's already jumped in here.
Yeah, she's got awesome.
It. Weekly win. It's new machine day.
Yep. She's got a new single head embroidery machine in the house. So good.
And I hear that's going to be the subject of tomorrow's coffee and conversation, I believe. So Ramona put some information about that in there. Todd says, just missed the last 15 minutes. Don't these customers know I'm watching podcasts? Well, Todd,
do your work.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking weekly wins. So what's
your weekly
been a big win for you? So we got Ramona's, and like I said, Ramona popped the details about coffee and conversation in there if you don't mind.
She has her podcasts on Saturdays, and we love all the podcasters who are
absolutely
for sure.
He says, "Oh my God, yes, it is. Not one thread break and beautiful stitching." So
nice. Not good. It's always good to get new equipment in, especially if it does make sense for your work. Now, what the funny thing is, I have kind of an old weekly win, but it's something that I'm just going to put in because it's like, hey,
again, no judgment zone.
Number one, first thing, I'm just going to say, working on some newsletters and sent out newsletters. So here's in my e-commerce world. Newsletters they're hitting and doing very well. So those of you who think email is dead, no. It's very much not dead. Email marketing is absolutely alive, especially with a warm group of people who have already signed up and want more from you. So just to let you know, for those of you who if someone has told you that email marketing doesn't hit anymore, really depends on your market, your people. Hits for me. So go do some email marketing. But as part of that, though we had some awesome stuff, like Lisa Shaw made some cool stuff for our newsletters and stuff. The thing that I actually have up here, the decoration that I put up there, that's actually from a design that I'm going to talk about on my show today. And it's a freebie that I give away. Somebody reminded me of it and showed me some cool stuff they made. And it always kind of warms my heart because this little piece has been made by a ton of different people on different stuff. A good friend of mine, Carolyn Cagle, made these mittens with it, these fleece mittens that they were selling for a while that had this piece. This piece has been out for some time, but now it's a freebie. It used to be a lockdown piece. It's now a freebie. It has been for a couple of years, but the cool thing was hearing about it again as St. Patrick's came back up was cool. Just seeing people make cool stuff. Little bitty win, but I have to say every time somebody makes some embroidery with a piece that I've done, I'm always happy to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that up real quick for everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to show the actual older post for the piece on screen real quick.
Okay.
And I think that's something fun we could do real quick. Just going to show that. Here is the post that we have over at Embrilliance if you want to get it. And I'm actually going to throw that out into the comments.
Cool.
If you want this piece, this is free. You just go get the free version of the Embrilliance software and you can save it to any machine format you want. The Acanthus Shamrock piece, there's a PDF that explains it a little bit, and it is right there for you if you want it. But like I said, the win for me on that was just that people still think this is relevant and love this little old design that I did on a lark. And this actually has become something that I've taught from because people ask me how to do this kind of ornamental acanthus work. And I'm going to talk about that on my show today. So it's just kind of cool to have people say, hey, yeah, we love that piece. And it's still out there being current. And I love that. So that's kind of a fun thing. Yes. So there's my little win is that little pieces that I'm working on are still out there in the world becoming little heirlooms for people.
Great win. All right. So Ramona says coffee and conversation Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. Quick 2-stitch on Facebook or quick 2-stitch on YouTube. Love to see you all there. Okay. Todd says I had a successful TWT, which is Tuesdays with Todd on Wednesday. Tuesdays with Todd on a Wednesday, right? But he had a conflict, so he let everybody know, and he consistently shows up. So Tuesdays with Todd on Wednesday, where we talked Chat GPT. Great feedback from people about it. So congrats, Todd. I think it's Fat Dad Live is where you can check that out over on YouTube. So pop that in there too, Todd, if you don't mind. So if people want to go check out past versions or be ready for future Tuesdays with Todd, that's awesome.
Oh, and one other thing, I do have one other win that I want to share because it's something that you guys might actually care about. I am indeed signed up for Fort Worth Impressions Expo. So I got that handled. People were asking me if it was happening, and I didn't have contracts yet. The contract is not fully inked, but I have go ahead that I'm teaching the same stuff from Long Beach. So for those of you who are kind of unhappy that Long Beach might be the only place I was teaching some of those, especially that vintage values class that people really wanted, it's coming to Texas. So Texas, I believe it's in September. So still a ways out. If you're somebody who can get to Fort Worth for the Impressions Expo show, you should. Like I said, ink's not dry on the paper, but you should be seeing me there. And I have a lot more confirmation than I did the last time I got asked. So there's the other one for me.
Good job. I love it.
All right, man.
All right.
So you are now on the spot.
I am now on the spot, huh? Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think the win for me is I'm actually involved in 2 different projects for the iLearning platform.
Oh, nice.
And we are efforting to get those out in their next release, which is coming in April. Cool. And so we made some good progress on that, got approval to move on to the next phase. So this next week, I'm going on kind of a little working vacation. We're actually going out into it's my son's spring break. And we wanted to get out into nature, out and to kind of get away from it all for a little bit. And so we're going to take a little short trip over to the middle of nowhere in the hills of Tennessee. So we're going over, we're going to be not too far from what's called Land Between the Lakes. But we found a little cheap cabin on Airbnb, but they have wired internet that's supposed to be pretty good. So I can make it a working trip.
Cool.
We can go play in the forest and do a little fishing or whatever. My son has really gotten into fishing. I'm not a fisherman, so it'll be fun to kind of try to start figuring it out. I
cool.
patience is not my virtue. So, but it will be a good learning experience for me. So looking forward to that.
Well,
So yeah, that's my
nature.
win, to be able to kind of get
Awesome,
that moving
man.
forward.
So just for those folks who don't know, I'm just going to go ahead and pop that into the comments, and we'll throw out a banner. That's Printing United Alliance is who's doing iLearning. So iLearningPlus.org is where you go see that. The classes aren't there yet. I'm also fall, hopefully, is where we're going, but we haven't gotten anything else set up. So I'll be there too. I know Terry and Aaron are definitely going to be there. Lots of interesting stuff going on. So if you want to hear more about it, see more about it, iLearningPlus.org.
Yeah. Check that out. We're Terry and I are doing. Yeah, Terry and I are doing called the Essentials of Direct to Garment and Direct to Film printing, and then I am doing the Essentials of Dye Sublimation printing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Eventually, I will be doing an intro embroidery piece. Supposedly, there's more than one coming. Hopefully, but that's currently what's up. We'll see. Like I said, mine'll be later. I'm not doing the spring unit. I can't make it for spring, but probably for the actual Printing United show.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, Kingsbury, I'll get to that one in a second. Todd says we also got to be part of Making Better High School Graduates Portrait of a Graduate. Really cool program. That sounds awesome, Todd. I saw like the little post about it, but I didn't understand what it was. So yeah, put a link out there or something like that. That's good stuff.
Nice.
And and then this is just 100% Todd. Also was able to get a principal to write "become an asshole" down as something students should be. So that was fun.
let's pronounce that real carefully. If everybody an asshole. There we go.
S-K-H. No, we don't do a podcast version of this. So
define that one for me, my man.
Yeah. And then Kingsbury Craft says fishing is relaxing. Yeah. So relaxing and me don't always get along, so we're working on it.
Yeah, I think we are of the same ilk. I got to be. I almost can't relax unless I'm doing something. Like, I just do a different thing to relax. Like I do a different kind of work.
Me. Yeah, movement is relaxing for me. So,
same.
But anyhow, really good stuff. I'm looking forward to it, and I know that it is a relaxing endeavor, and just to be able to get out in the woods and do that with my son and my wife, and
that's the thing.
It's going to be really cool. So thank you for sharing that. All right, well, we got a couple minutes left here, Eric, so we can what's the next thing on the Q&A list, or what are some challenges, what are some things you guys want to talk about? Q&A, anything that you're working on, Eric, that stands out that
it's kind of stupid for me. I hate to say, what's always challenging for me is just making sure I get my schedule all in order, and I am doing that, especially because this year the shows are kind of back to back, really close together. If you guys don't know, Minnesota DAX and DAX Illinois are 2 weeks apart this year. So we are 2 weeks away from Minnesota, but that means we're only 1 month away, not even, from Illinois, from Chicagoland. So for me, that was kind of my challenge, was just that trying to fit in all of the different pieces and parts that have to happen in this quarter has been a little bit rough. So I'm going to say that's my big challenge, is that hopefully if you guys have tips on how you handle tight turnarounds, because I'm that kind of person where if I have a 2 p.m. Meeting, I'm going to have a really hard time in that 10 to 2 section trying to not be distracted by the upcoming task.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, Eric. That's definitely a challenge that, because I did the same. I've just packed way too much into the first half of the year here.
Me too.
Like you said, all those shows. I was just back from EEM not too terribly long ago.
Yeah, you had a lot
APA
going on
out there. And then just everything else. Oh yeah, I'll do iLearning. Sure, that sounds great. Let me do that too. Let me do this, and all while I promised that I'd have my book done by the end of April. So, so I got a really good piece of advice the other day, though, that I wanted to share with people.
Nice.
So, I think people know that I do this rule of 5 thing. I brought that from the Jack Canfield world, and it's kind of grown in our industry a little bit, which is great. I love that people are expanding on that. But I've been having a hard time even just kind of getting to that. And so what ends up happening is then the list gets even longer, right? So I didn't get my rule of 5 done yesterday. Now it's a rule of 10, right? Now it's 15.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was getting so overwhelmed. So a good friend of mine said, go to one of those list randomizers, pop in all your projects, but also add in like a couple of like fun things. There's a couple of like, watch a television show, go for a walk, whatever it is that's kind of fills your soul.
Sure.
And she said, just do that list randomizer and then just commit to whatever comes up at the top. You work on that thing, and then that way you can kind of let go of everything else.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about that. I'm gonna work on this today, but there's this thing called wheelofnames.com.
Yeah.
Really cool. So I'm gonna do that, and then you kind of make it a celebration. And I'm going to see if that helps me get more things done more quickly. We'll see. I don't know.
I've done something very similar. And here's the other funny thing that I found. And this is something that's like, I'm trying to whisper so that my unconscious brain doesn't hear me. Sometimes you'll do that and your brain goes, that's not really what I need to do right now. And it'll make you work on the right thing. Because if you force yourself to work on something in this order, suddenly your brain will flip to the thing that it actually needs to do. It doesn't always happen. But I've had it happen where like I forced myself to work on something else for a while. And for some reason, the irritation of working on the wrong thing will get my motivation up for the right thing.
There you go.
Doesn't always work, but there's my handy hack for that randomizer.
All right. Well, there we go. So there's some handy hacks for you. Thank you, everybody.
Handy hack's not going to become a thing.
But it was freaking good. That's a really good point, though. So thank you for sharing that. I almost cut you off, but I'm like, no, this is too good.
See you guys next time.
Have a great weekend.